All right, hello. So this week we are doing for our assignment student populations. So the school that I'm observing at is Avenel High School, which is located about an hour southwest of here. Um, Avenel is a very interesting place because unlike California, the diversity is not as much as you would expect in a place, for example, like Fresno. So one example is Avenel actually has a student population of 95% Hispanic. And with that, the other 5% being taken up by, of course, white African American, and in some regards in Avenel, mostly Middle Eastern, a couple refugees, a couple students who have been here but are of mostly Syrian descent. So Avenel is a very interesting place, like I said before, in that the students themselves are culturally connected to both the heritage that they come from, as well as a mix of what of the United States, or however you want to put that. So a lot of the students at Avenel live a very difficult life at a young age, considering the poverty rate is quite high, actually. 70% of the families living in Avenel are below the poverty line. So, with that being said, a lot of agricultural aspects of it make it tied to the community. For example, the agricultural company, they're called Wonderful. What they do is they do a lot of things that connect back into the high school and the community, for example. So they have a program at the high school that allows students to enter into what they call the ag program. And what that is students can go into the program, learn all their core classes that they need to graduate, but also they can learn a lot of agricultural stuff, and at the end of that, they are able to acquire an AA degree after 2 years of being in the program. And Wonderful allows many of them to submit job applications to go straight back into the company, which is great because many students in high school are not able to graduate with a diploma and an AA degree. Also, another component of being out at Avenel is the language. Now, with that, over 50% of the students who live and go to Avenel High School are EL students, which means they are learning English as their second or potentially third language in some cases. Well, this makes it quite difficult for many aspects of it, including the teacher himself. My host teacher, fortunately enough, speaks Spanish. So, to meet those needs of those kids, it's quite simple. Gives the instructions to the class of what they're doing for the day, how he wants to go about it, and if there's any misconfusion on the translation or they didn't quite understand what was being said, he can walk over, pull them to the side, and translate into Spanish so that they're able to continue on with the lesson. Um, it's quite amazing with Avenel because with the ag program, a lot of stuff that those kids in the program are doing are taking college classes. Some of them at the college, some of them they have college professors go to the high school. But for those who are not in the program, they're just in the regular day they call it W Mesa, which encompasses everybody else who's not in the ag program. There's a lot of benefits. They have honors classes, they have AP classes. However, they're not as extensive as other high schools, just simply because of the accessibility of teachers, the number of students themselves not wanting to be in those classes, or the availability to get into those classes. So the host teacher that I have that addresses these needs for these students is very interesting to watch. He's a very student-centered oriented type of teacher, meaning he wants the students to do a lot of the constructing, making of the class. However, when a lot of those things come into conflict, for example, my host teacher teaches 11th grade United States history. So a lot of things are very hard for people who don't have that necessarily cultural connection to what they're learning. It makes it difficult for their students to follow along if they don't have that connection. So a lot of times what he'll do is if they don't have that, he'll propose a question that gives them something that they can relate to in their own personal experiences or their lives, that they can connect back to what they're learning so that they can at least have that connection so they can progress and keep going forward. A lot of things that he does is very much connected back to that idea of, you have these experiences, we're learning this. How do we get that connection be made from what you have to what we're trying to learn, so we can make connections from either what they're learning in the time or things that we can, as he puts it, not do in the future. My host teacher is very much equipped to handle all these conflicts and potentially problematic things from the students trying to go into the classroom. He's from the community. He understands what it's about. He's very much understanding of how those students are and what they bring into the classroom, because he was one of those students himself. So he's very equipped to have that connection between where he sees them going and where he's at. Him being able to speak Spanish definitely bridges the gap that other teachers who don't speak Spanish, who have to use students to translate, it makes it easier in that regard. So Avenal, being what Avenal is very interesting to watch. It's very similar to some things that, in my experiences, I've noticed either with A, California, or B, the Hispanic culture itself. And also just by the sheer fact that it isn't as diverse as other places, and it's very heavily populated Hispanic, makes it a very interesting place to watch and observe and take in a lot of things that I don't have at my disposal. So I'm very blessed to be out at Avenel, and I hope everything continues to go great.